All right, good afternoon, everybody, or good evening, good night, whatever it is. It's May 14th, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, so I figured I was going to record a video for these cryptocurrencies as I do almost daily, and then said, well, it's Saturday and we're trading live, so why not go live? So figured we'll go live here. We can do a little Q&A, and I'll look at any charts that you guys want looked at. Just keep in mind that most of these, or a lot of these, I have not looked up on TradingView, so if you know the ticker that goes in here, that certainly makes things useful. I'm going to start off with Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin, and then we will expand a bit and look at whatever you want to look at. So starting with Bitcoin here, I'm going to be looking at the daily time frame first, and then I zoom in from there, and I look at the daily, then the hourly, and then if I'm looking to actively trade, I'll be looking at the 15-minute and the 5-minute. So starting with the daily, I like to get a general gauge of what's going on, an overall picture, and we know that obviously Bitcoin has been extremely strong, hitting blue sky breakout, big time follow through to the upside, and looks like people are struggling with the volume here, but all clear on my end, so they have to adjust. All right, so people have to figure that out. So Bitcoin here on the daily time frame is coming off of its all-time high, and I saw a really funny article on Facebook coming up on my live feed, and it was some conspiracy theory saying, you know, Bitcoin's down 10% from its all-time high, manipulation or whatever the reason is, and stock traders like me just look at that and shake our head and laugh because Bitcoin has gone an extremely huge move to the upside. This is very normal and healthy consolidation. To think that we're not going to consolidate after the kinds of moves that we have been seeing is pretty absurd. So people, I mean, it's understandable that people who aren't familiar with stock trading and the way things work and how human psychology leads to these pullbacks after big breakouts, you know, you might be saying, uh-oh, what's going on? But in all reality, this is a very strong chart, and this looks extremely strong for the bulls. So the key levels that I'm watching here are obviously the all-time high. That's the only resistance we have. After the all-time high, we're looking at psychological resistance levels. So we're looking at 1889, then we're looking at 1900, 1950, so far, so on and so forth. So that's the key resistance. In terms of support, it's the low of this pullback. We've dropped down to 1610. So that's now a key level going forward. And I want to talk a little bit about the equilibrium pattern here because this pattern happens time and time again. It's referred to as different things. You'll see it on every time frame, but it happens after a breakout or a breakdown. And after a breakout, this is obviously a breakout. So we see our low of the pullback. We see a bounce attempt. We're likely going to set a lower high compared to the all-time high. We're then going to consolidate and set a higher low. And it's just going to be a tightening range of higher lows and lower highs on declining volume, getting tighter and tighter before a break occurs. And I usually look in on the hourly time frame and see it a little bit more clearly. So I look at Bitcoin here on the hourly, and I can see our high, the all-time high, pullback low. Now it looks like we might be setting our lower high. Another resistance level to be watching is 1829. So that's a nice example where I start off looking at the daily time frame to get the overall picture of things. I can see the bulls are in full control, and then I zoom in to get more particular levels that I want to be watching on the shorter term time frames. So if I were looking to actively trade Bitcoin tonight, I would be watching the range that we've seen right here on the hourly with our high of 1829 and our low of this consolidation of 1763.33. So this little channel right here, if we get a bull break above 1869, we're looking up towards that all-time high. If we get a bear break, we know further consolidation is coming. And the next key support level that I would be looking at is previous resistance, now support. And that's right down here at 1740. And that level just stands out visually to me because I see multiple tops here where we struggled at that level. It was resistance, then the bulls broke through it. So if we were to pull back, that level would be anticipated to be acting as support as well. And as far as technical analysis with these cryptocurrencies go, in observing them, admittedly, I haven't been trading these cryptocurrencies long, maybe a few weeks, a month at this point, but watching how they interact with the charts and applying everything that I've been doing for 7 years with technical analysis on stocks, I almost want to say that these cryptocurrencies are respecting the rules of technical analysis more so than stocks. It's just an observation at this point. I've been very pleased with how things have gone, and I can give an example. Let's look at Ethereum real quick. So in terms of, I'll wrap it up here with Bitcoin. In terms of the outlook that we're looking at, Again, that daily pattern is so very common. It's human psychology and emotion after a breakout. Consolidation, lower highs, higher lows. We're going to look for this to play out for a couple more days, and then we'll see a clear break. We haven't established a higher low yet. We have potentially setting our lower high right now. And if we do pull back a bit here overnight into tomorrow, we will then be keeping an eye out for a higher low compared to 1610. So I'll keep checking in day after day here, as I usually do throughout the week, and keep seeing if this pattern sets up for Bitcoin. So Ethereum is admittedly what I'm most interested in. It's what I put in the most fundamental research into. I don't do a ton of fundamental research in the stock market. I'm all technical analysis. But with these cryptocurrencies, I obviously want to know, what's going on behind the scenes a bit more in depth. So I've been doing a lot of research on Ethereum. That's where, and just full transparency, I do have positions in Ethereum, and that is what I'm most actively trading. I have traded Litecoin, and I have traded a little bit of Bitcoin, but mostly Ethereum. So that's what I'm most interested in, but certainly fine looking at whatever you all want to look at after this. So what I'm looking at here is a similar pattern on Ethereum to what Bitcoin I anticipate is going to be forming. So looking here on Ethereum, we have our high, the all-time high, same scenario, and that level is up there at 98.98. We have our low of the pullback of 75.89, and then you can see the high of the bounce here. So we had our high, the low of the pullback. After the bounce from the pullback, our lower high was established at 91.98. So that is a key resistance level going forward. And we also have a higher low now. So again, I can just draw these tighter and tighter channels, and now it might be getting a little confusing with these lines. So that's when I zoom into the hourly time frame. And now it's even getting more confusing. Let me get rid of all this that I was watching earlier. So these are the levels that I'm currently watching here on Ethereum. $90 is a very key resistance. The bulls have been battling it multiple times, and they're struggling. There's a ton of shares on, or I won't call them shares, but there's a ton of ETH on the ask. And if you watch the bid in the ask tick on GDAX or wherever you're trading, you can scroll up and see that under $90 and all around $90, there's a ton of Ethereum on the ask. So you know it's going to take a lot of buying power to break this resistance. And you know that when you do break this resistance, we're going to see a quick move to the upside as the bulls hop in on that resistance break. So right now, if I were all cash and I did not have a position, what my strategy would be on this $90 resistance level is I would want to see, let's say there's 2,000 ETH within a 10-cent range on the $90 level. I would want to wait until about 1,500 of that started getting bought up quicker and quicker, and then I would want to jump in and be a part of the last chipping away of that resistance. So I know that as soon as I buy that up, there's not much left. Someone else is going to come in and buy the rest, and then we're going to head up to higher highs. So I'll always be watching the size of the asks on ETH to know how much resistance is ahead. So we have multiple rejections here. In terms of the short term and what I'm going to be potentially trading tonight, obviously if we get a bull break of 90, that's strong. And then we have resistance at 90.30 and then 90.99. So really you just look at this hourly chart and you see all these lower highs that we have set. Every time the bulls try and make a move and get squashed down by the bears, that is an indication of resistance. So that's a level to be watching. So you can just walk it on back up. So $90 right now, 90.30, 90.99, and then 91.98. So there's 4 clear resistance levels in between 90 and 92 that have to break for the bulls to be heading back towards that all-time high. So in terms of what to be watching tonight, here we are at this resistance. If we cannot break $90 on another attempt, we're going to pull back. And this is a very key support now, 87.37. If we break this support, being unable to break 90, we then have a lower high and a lower low, and that shifts the short-term momentum. You can see since we double bottomed down here around this $82 level, the low 82s, we have seen higher lows and higher highs, which shifted to put the bulls in control. But if we can't break this 90 level, and if we break 87.63, we're going to see another leg to the downside. And in terms of the first support that I would be looking at, it would be the last low of consolidation. That's the first level that I would look at. And that level down there is at 85.33. So it's all about lower highs and higher lows to be dictating where the momentum is holding. And right now it's all about $90 tonight with Ethereum. And if we go to bed, or if I go to bed here on the East Coast of the US, and if I wake up with $90 breaking, I know the bulls are in full control. So going to touch in here on a couple of questions real quick, then we'll look at Litecoin. So in terms of live streaming, this is the first time I've ever live streamed crypto. I usually put out my videos. I do a little 8-minute or so technical analysis video just to update throughout the day on Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin. I put those out at about noon Eastern time. In terms of platforms to trade It's Coinbase.com is essentially will act as your bank, so to speak, where you transfer from your bank to Coinbase. And then from Coinbase, you can hop on to GDAX. Coinbase you can trade with, but that's more for mom and pop. If you want to go to GDAX.com, that's more for a professional trader, more active trader. So I'm trading on GDAX.com personally, and Canadians have some difficulty. There's a lot more in terms of regulations. We have a lot of members in our chat room where they are really struggling. The Canadians are waiting patiently, and they want their money to get on, and they have to go through Kraken or all these I don't even know how to say it, but it's, let's see here. I got it written down real quick. It's quad something, but it's Quadriga. But it's tough for Canadians to trade these cryptos, and a lot of them are struggling to be able to do so in US dollars. They have to buy Ethereum with Bitcoin. They can't buy it with USD, where here in America, I was able to just do a bank wire, get it over fairly quickly, and then good to go right then and there. So let's go to Litecoin, and then I'll start looking at some of the other altcoins that you all want to look at. And I'm currently in the process of putting out a basic intro into the cryptocurrency space in terms of fundamentals as well as trading. And it's just so fascinating to watch how this is all exploding. The cryptocurrency space, in the first 7 years, it took 7 years for cryptocurrencies to reach 10 billion market cap. It then took another year to reach 20 billion. It then took 3 months to hit 40 billion. So we're really exponentially exploding to the upside. Can this keep up? Not at this rate. We are going to see periods of consolidation that will be normal and healthy. But in terms of long-term outlook, there is a lot of reward here. It's a very high risk, huge reward space. So personally, when people ask me about crypto, I always say, don't play with anything. You want to be financially comfortable if you're going to be putting money in these cryptocurrencies, and you wouldn't want to be playing with anything that you couldn't take some heavy losses in and be able to walk away. We never know what's going to happen, and we just want to be prepared for the worst case scenario. So Litecoin here on the daily time frame has come off of its all-time high, and it's consolidated a bit more significantly. The bulls are trying to put in their low of this consolidation with almost a double bottom down here. It was down at 25.06 and 25.04. That's close enough that I will consider that a double bottom. I'm not an exact technical analysis kind of guy, whereas, the candlestick has to be perfect in terms of the definition of what a candlestick is. Like right here, that's a doji as far as I'm concerned. Technically, the open and the close were not the same level by 7 cents. So technically, it is not a definition of a doji, but the psychology of the candlestick is what matters. I call that a doji. I call that a double bottom, even though it's off by 2 pennies. So that's the level to be watching, the must-hold short-term support to keep the bulls in control. That's 25.04. And it's a bullish reversal candlestick. So this is a bearish reversal spinning top candlestick. The big upper wick shows us a lot of profit taking. So after that profit taking, we have now consolidated to the downside, and we have a higher low establishing right above 25. Now it looks like we have a lower high establishing of 30.60. It looks like the bulls are running into some resistance there, and we're going to have to see overnight which level breaks first. So same thing. I've got my outlook on the daily time frame now. I know we're in a big bull market. We're in a big bull move. We've consolidated. The bulls are trying to show back up. So I zoom into the hourly time frame, and if I'm looking to actively trade, I will mark the closest levels on the hourly. And the closest support right now is 27.75. If that breaks, we're looking down at 26.83. And the good thing, traders are loving the volatility in this sector right now. When you can see, 5% swings as quickly as we see them here, it is really beneficial to traders. And we've utilized it in the past couple of weeks to have some really nice trades. And I'll look at an example of ETH and point out the scenario that played out that was really nice in a minute. But for the short term for LTC here, it's all about resistance up at 30.60 and support down at 27.75. And that in itself is almost a 10% range. It's about a 7% range that we can trade within. And volume is extremely important. Volume tells us momentum. I look at volume and it's almost like an accelerator. So an analogy that I use, let's say we're in an uptrend and we're heading to a key resistance level. I'll look at volume and I'll imagine that the uptrend is a car and the resistance is a roadblock, and volume is acceleration. So we want to have the car speeding up as we head to the resistance roadblock in order to bust through it and see continuation. If we have declining bull volume on an uptrend, that shows us the car is slowing down and we're much more likely to reject from resistance. So bulls always want to see increasing bull volume on the way up and decreasing bear volume on the way down. That shows normal healthy consolidation when it is low bear volume on the pullback. So that's what we will always be looking for. So let's look at just an example here on ETH and the all-out dump that ended up playing out. And I actually had a buddy who's not really technical analysis savvy, and I was talking with him as this was going on. And I said the key level is $87. If we break $87 on ETH, we're going to dump. And that's because that was the low that we had established in the previous past here. We had a low at 87.50. There was a lot of price action around 87. So that level broke. And you can, if you go back and check the videos on my YouTube channel here, as to the ones I put out over the last week, you can just go and see how really these levels have played out perfectly. And one thing that I want to point out is $87 was the level that we were watching for the clear break for the bears. And once it broke, look at where the bounce bounced to. We had a really nice short-term bounce. And I'm actually on the wrong spot here. Sorry for moving this chart around. Here we go. So there it is. So there is our $87 support being built. And then we have our lower high. And as soon as we break to a lower low and break that 87 psychological support, we all out dump. And it was just a complete dump. And one thing about this uptrend that we are currently in is that we are watching the 5-minute time frame and the hourly time frame continuously bounce when the RSI gets below 30. When the RSI drops below 30, that's an oversold indication. And normally when you're in a stock or so that is not in a complete bull market, complete bull uptrend, the bounces you get off that oversold really aren't as like clockwork. These bounces that we're seeing in these cryptocurrencies, because everybody is wanting to get in, seeing this bull move, and even when we're consolidating, you have to figure that, Coinbase has been seeing delays with the amount of money that people are trying to transfer on. People are waiting 3 or 4 business days for the money to hit their accounts. People are wanting to buy these dips. So when you see the 5-minute RSI and the hourly RSI get below 30, you see bounces play out time and time again. So when this dump occurred and the RSI got down this low, you can pretty much very confidently buy and know that in the short term, within a few hours, you will be in a green position. And I've been trading 5-minute RSI oversold bounces and just flipping them for, a few $100s at a time. And it's been very consistent. So what I wanted to point out here was the all-out dump from $87. And let's look at it on a shorter term time frame, the 15-minute. And let's find that there. So here's our dump. We break 87 and the floodgates open. We find support and look at where we bounced and rejected from. In one 15-minute candle, we went from 82.20 and we rejected to 87.11. So previous $87 support then acts as resistance on the way back up. And anybody aware with technical analysis and knowing that previous support then acts as resistance would have likely exited in the mid to upper $86 range, knowing how significant that bounce was. That was a 7-8% bounce in minutes, and knowing to lock in that profit because key resistance was being tested. So certainly, like I said, I have not been trading these cryptocurrencies very long, just a few weeks, about a month at this point, but I am very, very intrigued with how technical analysis has been playing out and how it has been very consistent so far. And I'm going to be trading them a lot more actively, and it has certainly led to some nights with very little sleep, which I'm going to have to keep in check. But let's now look at some cryptocurrencies you all want to look at. In terms of becoming a member of thechartguys.com, we have a free week trial, so by all means sign up. No credit card, no nothing. Check it out for a week, see if it's something you want to be a part of. And I don't like being a salesman. That's not my thing. I don't like making sales pitches. That's why we have the free week. We never have unhappy members because everybody knows exactly what they're getting when they sign up for it. So feel free to check it out. We have a cryptocurrency room that we have a lot of good information in terms of, people helping other people set up their accounts and transfer in funds. So it's really, really exciting to watch. We have a whole community of people that are very familiar, very financial savvy, familiar with stocks, and they don't know much at all about cryptocurrency. So when I see 250 members who know everything about stocks and they don't know much at all about cryptocurrencies, I would say maybe, a half dozen know a lot about it. I know that we are nowhere near being adopted by the public. If even the financial sector is not on top of this, that there's a long way to go in terms of public adoption of these cryptocurrencies. And honestly, the biggest catalyst that I am looking forward to is the ETF. The first cryptocurrency that gets an ETF is going to explode in the short term. And why that is because an ETF is going to allow these brokers, anybody with a Fidelity account, a Thinkorswim account, E-Trade, it's going to allow them to get a piece of this cryptocurrency action. Right now, it's a barrier to entry for people to have to jump in and use Coinbase, and it's a little bit foreign. Is this safe? Is this sketchy? Can someone hack my stuff? And it's a barrier to entry. But when you have an ETF, people are going to be able to go right through their brokers just like they do every day when they're trading Facebook and Apple, and they're very comfortable doing this. And they're going to be able to get a piece. And what this ETF does is as people buy shares of the ETF then has to go and buy the underlying asset, which is going to be a cryptocurrency. So let's say we know Bitcoin just got rejected. They're reviewing it. But let's say Ethereum, because it's more of an asset, so to speak, and not as much of a cryptocurrency as Bitcoin, let's say that Ethereum gets accepted as an ETF on the stock market. What's going to happen is you're going to see an initial surge in price as everybody wants to get in before that ETF goes live. You're then going to see a more prolonged, steady accrual of price as people buy into the ETF through their stockbrokers, and then the ETF has to buy ETH as an asset to match what the money coming in is buying. And it's going to be hundreds of millions of dollars, in my opinion. So that's the biggest short-term catalyst that I'm excited for. And I think there's going to be a huge payoff when that does play out. And, someone is going to be the first cryptocurrency. Maybe it's not Ethereum. Maybe it won't happen for a little while, but it is coming, and it is going to be big time in the short term for gains. In terms of the website, I'm live 2.5 hours every day. And I'm always in the chat room. I don't have much of a life. So, yes, come check out the free week and you'll have all your questions answered. So what else do we want to look at here? I know there's a lot of other altcoins here that are starting to gain some popularity. We've got Ripple that was ripping for the bulls recently. So feel free to type them in. I'll check out whatever. And I'm watching Ethereum really close here. I'm currently holding a position, and if we see a bear break with an inability to get over $90, I will likely exit that position and look to reload lower. So that's what I'm going to be watching for the next 2 hours. I'm seeing these higher lows on the 15-minute time frame. So the supports that I'm watching to keep the bulls in control, I'm looking down here at 88.75. Another higher low just formed. That was at 89.03. So we're getting tighter and tighter, and a break is going to be imminent here sometime in the next couple of hours. So let's look at XEM. And let's see if I can find it here. I got XEM BTC. Let's see if I can get just a Coinbase version. Looks like I can only get it relative to Bitcoin. So we'll go with that for now. So again, first thing I look at is the daily time frame. And I can see that we are forming an equilibrium pattern, everything that I just pointed out. So here's our all-time high. Here's our low of the pullback. We just set our lower high. So high, low, lower high, and we will now look to form a higher low compared to, and because this is, relative to Bitcoin, it's 0.00008. So obviously, ideally, we have a different numerical value to make life easy, but in terms of the pattern of what is forming, it is an equilibrium pattern because of the breakout that occurred. And this is a perfect example. This already happened. So this happened on the previous breakout back in end of April, early May. So we had our all-time high at that point. We had our low of consolidation. We had a lower high, higher low, almost no trading range, and then boom, there's your bull break. Look at the volume. Declining volume as the pattern tightens, spike in bull volume, and then the bulls run with it. So this equilibrium pattern continues to happen time and time again. Here's another one right here. There's our high, our low of the pullback, lower high, higher low, bull break, spike in volume. Look at the volume steadily decline day after day, and there's your bull signal when the volume picks up. Let's look at this on a different time frame and see it a bit more clearly, this 4-hour chart. So this is such a perfect example. It's pure human trading, emotion, and this is why charts work. So here's our high, low, lower high, higher low, bull break right there on this candlestick. The volume is there on the candlestick, the highest volume that we had seen. This is the 4-hour chart, by the way. The highest volume that we had seen in the past dozens of candlesticks occurs, breaks the lower high pattern, and then the bulls run with it for days. And then we go back, we do it again. High, low, lower high, higher low, building a base, trading straight across, volume spike right there, bull break right there. We ended up pulling back, but we formed a higher low comparatively, and then the bulls shot to the upside. So we're doing the same pattern again. High, low, lower high, and now we're going to look to form a higher low, and we will eventually get a break over the next couple of days, looking for this to play out again. So this equilibrium pattern happens so very often. I use it all the time on the 5-minute time frame trading stocks. And to see it play this well on these Bitcoins and these cryptocurrencies is really exciting. So what we've got in the short term is the resistance to be watching the lower high and our higher low on the daily time frame. And again, because it is playing out on the daily time frame, we could stay within this pattern for another 5 days or so, 5-6 days. So watching that range and the volume. And again, the volume is the indication that the pattern is breaking. Always watch for that spike in volume. It is very telling. Ethereum Classic, not sure what that ticker will be here. Again, all these tickers, most of them I haven't used on TradingView. So we do have ETC USD here from Kraken. So we have a key resistance test right now. I'm looking at 6826 and 687. So we did get a little higher high there. So that's a little bullish indication for ETC here. We had, again, it was our high, all-time high, low of the pullback. Our lower high was established on the bounce of the low of the pullback. Then we formed another higher low, and then we just made a bull break. It wasn't a very convincing bull break, but we did get over resistance. And we zoom into the hourly time frame to get more details, and we can see that we, again, on a spike up here, we got up to 6826, and we did just break above it, but not convincingly. The bulls want to see another move to the upside, and we can consolidate. And as long as we keep the higher low pattern intact, form a higher low, we have a lot of wiggle room because of these two huge bull candlesticks. As long as we form a higher low compared to 5928, it's another higher low, and then we'll look to make another attempt at these resistances. But the bulls have the slight upper hand because they were able to break that resistance, whereas you look at ETH and we're setting lower highs, whereas ETC USD just got a little higher high. So a little bit of encouragement for the bulls. By no means is the battle over at that level, but they did get that higher high. NXT. Let's look at NXT compared to Tether USD, I suppose. Nice bull break on the hourly time frame. Look at the volume standout. So there's a mini equilibrium pattern. There's our high, low of the pullback, lower high, sideways trading with no volume. Look at how little volume there was on that hour. 55,000 volume. You can't even see the volume bar. It's so low comparatively. And then the candlestick when the bulls show up, 2 million volume. 55,000 to 2 million. Everybody joined in on that candlestick. And you can see the volume when the bulls move here. It's really indicated by this volume showing up. So you see, like I said earlier, you want to always see increasing bull volume on the way up and decreasing bear volume on the way down. And that's exactly what we're seeing here. 3 candlesticks of increasing bull volume. This is the hourly time frame, so 3 hours increasing bull volume. Bear volume is non-existent on the consolidation. Bull volume for a higher high. Bull volume. And you can see just these pullback candlesticks. There's just very, very little bear volume. That's exactly what the bulls want to see. So going forward from here, we're pretty extended to the upside. The RSI got pretty overbought. We ran all the way up to 0.0799. Let's call it 0.08. And now we need to consolidate. So we will likely form an equilibrium pattern on the shorter term time frame. So this is the 5-minute. There's our high. Now we have a low of the pullback. We're going to set a lower high. We're going to pull back and set a higher low. And we're going to watch this range tighten again. And it happens so very often. And here it is back here before the breakout occurred. We reached a flex point where we can't get any tighter. We have our high, low, lower high, higher low, straight across trading, no volume, bull break on bull volume, and then the bull momentum picks up and we break out. So always watch for these tightening ranges. That's what that equilibrium pattern is. That's what I call it, as it's reaching an equilibrium after a breakout, higher lows and lower highs. They also are inside bars, and I'm in the process of making educational content for inside bars, which is basically just a macro version. An inside bar, you can go over inside bars real quick. Let's find some examples. So here's inside bars. An inside bar is when the range of the candlestick fits completely within the range of the previous candlestick. So here's an example where we have multiple inside bars in a row, and we've got, so there's our mother bar. There's our inside bar where the range fits completely within the previous candlestick, a third or a second inside bar where the range fits completely within the previous candlestick, and then a bear break. As soon as you break the range of an inside bar, that's your trade indication. So as soon as the low of this inside bar broke, that was a bearish signal, and then from there we pulled back for about an hour, and even longer than that, we pulled back for about 2 hours. So these inside bars, if you were to zoom in, this is the 15-minute chart showing multiple inside bars in a row. If you were to zoom in to the 5-minute chart, this would be the same pattern that I've been talking about for the last 20 minutes of higher lows and lower highs. You can see every candlestick is a lower high and a higher low, tight, 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 and a bear break. So you will see these everywhere. Equilibrium pattern, inside bars, all over the place. So let's see here, NT, NXT, that's what we just did. Let's go to GNT. And we'll look at it compared to Bitcoin, GNT, BTC. So again, I start with the daily time frame to get an overall gauge of things. I can see we're recovering from a pullback. We pulled back fairly significantly. And the bears are in control right now. And I can say that only in the short term, of course. Daily chart is still in a very bullish uptrend. But what I'm looking at is the high that we hit, the low of the pullback, lower high was established, and then a lower low. We broke the initial low of the pullback. So the bulls always want to see a higher low form to stay in the strongest uptrend. And so here we did not do that. We broke to lower lows, and then we set another lower high. We saw a rejection right here on a bounce attempt where the bulls topped out a few times. So as of right now, the bears have a bit more momentum. We've been looking at so many bullish charts following the breakout, the crazy breakout the last 2 weeks, that this is probably the most bearish chart that we've looked at. That being said, that's comparatively, because we can see we're still very, very strong here. I'll use uptrends to give me a bit of a guide, so to speak, but I'm more concerned with the price action and not just the trend line. So whenever I draw my trend line, I make sure the real bodies of the candlesticks don't ever close below the trend line. I don't care if the lower wicks dip below it. I just want the closes to always be over my trend line. So this is where I would draw this uptrend line for GNT, BTC. I would see if the bulls could hold that level. But I do know that we did set a lower high and a lower low, so it's now up to the bulls to prove themselves. The bears proved themselves as soon as we broke this lower low that they had some short-term control. It's now up to the bulls to prove themselves, and I need to see these bulls get over this recent bounce attempt high in order to see follow-through back to the upside and to be heading back towards that all-time high. EXP, BTC also breaking out. I just did EXP, didn't I? So big upper wick, this does show profit taking, and you look on the shorter term time frame, wicks are very important. They're going to show you either profit taking or bulls buying the dip. And right now on this 15-minute candlestick, bulls are buying the dip. This is a bullish reversal doji on the 15-minute time frame. It needs to be confirmed. But there's a very clear support level that stands out to me right here, and it's right here straight across at this level. And again, because it's compared to BTC, these numbers suck. 0.00125. But you can see we bounced off of it 1, 2, now 3 times. Even though we dipped below it, I care where the candlesticks close. It shows the bulls buying the dip, and we now need a green candlestick following this one to confirm the bullish reversal doji and look for the bulls to head back to the upside. And we have plenty of lower highs to be watching. We have the high of the breakout up here. We have our lower high on a failed attempt. We have another lower high. So we're just watching the range get tighter and tighter. And this is actually a descending triangle pattern. That's what it's called. When you have a horizontal base of support and a lower high pattern getting tighter and tighter. And this one's going to break likely overnight as well, as we eventually reach a point where we can't get any tighter and a break is imminent, and then we get a volume spike going along with it. So Stratus and Bitcoin here, again, start with the daily, get an overall gauge of things. Nice uptrend, higher lows and higher highs, keeping the bulls in control, but we're in the midst of forming an equilibrium pattern where we've got our high of this move, our low of the pullback, nice long lower wick with bulls buying the dip, and you can see that follow through to the upside, but that follow through topped out. We set another lower high, and now it's up to the bulls to form a higher low, and we're going to watch this range continue to tighten. This is the daily time frame. We have plenty of space in this range, so this could play out for a week or two. It all depends on volume, and you can see the volume is slowly starting to drop off, and we're going to watch the higher low, lower high pattern for a clear break, which will indicate short-term direction. We know that the short-term direction has consistently broken for the bulls time and time again. And again, here's another example where just after the breakout, we see consolidation, we see volume disappear, and the bull volume showing up is the spike, and it's what traders are looking for, and they see that bull volume, and everybody jumps in on it, and we break out to higher highs, and we see a lot of follow-through to the upside. So again, I cannot stress enough volume. If I had to eliminate all indicators, it would be a really tough decision between, if I could only keep one, between RSI and volume. Those are my two main indicators used, and they're the two for technical analysis on cryptocurrencies that I see as the most beneficial. So NXT here, we'll look at NXT compared to Bitcoin. Nice bull break. So there's a lack of profit taking, and that shows strength where we're currently at. Look at the volume, such huge volume to the upside. And now I'll zoom in to get some more key levels. And I'll see that our most recent support that was established with this little consolidation low. And the bulls are in full control, heading to higher highs. And also want to point out the importance of blue sky breakout. When you're in a blue sky breakout, that means you have no previous price history resistance. You are at a point that has never been seen before in the history of the trading instrument. So there's no resistance. There's no previous price action. There's no moving averages. All you have is psychological resistance levels, and a psychological resistance level is nice round numbers, and that's because it's humans trading here. And imagine, if we don't have clear resistances, people aren't familiar with technical analysis, they say, well, I'm going to sell Apple when it hits 100, or I'm going to buy if this hits 50. These round numbers, time and time again, play in human psychology. So when you don't have any other resistance to be going off of, some people like to use Fibonacci extensions. They've never really resonated with me in terms of following through and being consistent. So I look at psychological levels, and we have so many stocks right now, they're in blue sky breakouts because this market is at all-time highs, and we're just looking at psychological resistance levels for those stocks. So same thing with these cryptocurrencies. Every time we hit a new all-time high, look to psychological levels for resistance. Look at ETH. Where did we top out? Just under 100 psychological. We got up to 98.98. People were taking profit. They were saying, okay, I've made a ton of money in a couple weeks. I'm going to take some profit before we hit 100. Bulls never got to 100, couldn't even get to that level. We came up $1.02 shy, and then we consolidated. So keep an eye on these nice round numbers. They do play out time and time again, and that's why Ethereum right now is struggling at $90. $90 on the dot has a ton of ETH sitting on the ask, and that's because people just set their ETH and their ask right on that nice round number and let it sit there. And that's the current situation that we're in here. So this is going to be nice on ETH. This hourly time frame is forming inside bars. So I can see the last couple candlesticks are forming tighter and tighter ranges with higher lows and lower highs. So if I want to get more detailed information, I zoom into the 5-minute time frame, and here's our higher low and higher high right there to be watching. We have our little double top. We topped out at 89.80 and 89.79. So that's a double top as far as I'm concerned. And now we're setting another lower high here. We just topped out at 89.60, and our support is down here at 89.03. So right now the range is 89.03 to 89.60, and we're going to get tighter and tighter here as we wait patiently for a break. And that break is going to be accompanied by volume, and it's going to either lead to further downside or lead to a bull break up towards $90 resistance. For RSI, I just used the general 14 period RSI. I don't want to double check that. Don't want to give wrong information. The RSI I use, that's right, the 14 period. SQ, I'm assuming is a stock. I've been covering SQ. Blue sky breakout there as well. But we're going to stick to cryptos for now. So personally, I'm going to be exiting my crypto position if we break $89, and I will look to reload lower. I'd rather not. I'd rather see the bulls break 90. We can see this 5-minute time frame has clear higher lows, but a very clear resistance level as well, currently sitting at 89.80. So this is an ascending triangle pattern with a horizontal resistance line, higher lows, range is getting tighter and tighter, and this is going to break sometime in the next few hours, likely before midnight, likely within the next 4 hours Eastern time. So again, I'm putting out this, I'm in the process of creating slides. I'm working on this intro to cryptocurrencies video, and I'll put that out as soon as I'm done. But feel free to check out the YouTube channel we got going. And again, we put out videos. I probably put out a video maybe 5 days a week. And I'll always say my position when I'm in one, whether I'm in cash or ETH. Usually if I'm in any of the other names, it's very short term. I'm just looking to flip LTC and flip Bitcoin. Although at this point, I'm looking to Bitcoin's clearly the market cap leader, and I'm looking to the laggards, so to speak. And a lot of other people are as well. And that's why this space is being blown up, because everybody says, how flashy is the headline? $10,000 in Bitcoin 7 years ago is now worth $200 million. Everybody wants to find the next Bitcoin, and that's why we're seeing this surge into this space. And that's why technical analysis is important. Even if you're not actively trading, you want to be aware of when a trend breaks. We do need to be cautious of a bubble. I know people don't like that name, that word, and I'm not saying there's going to be a bubble, but it is possible. When you see gains this big, this short term, a bubble is entirely possible, and we just want to know when should we get out if that were to be the case. And breaking the higher low pattern on the daily time frame, think about it. If you're going long in a position, which I'm planning on doing in ETH, there's nothing that's stopping you from taking it out, going back into cash, and being patient to look for a re-entry. And it's not like, unless there's a terrible scenario where huge news comes out overnight when you are in cash, more likely than not, you're not going to miss anything. You're not missing the boat. You're just protecting your current profit that you have and looking to reload lower and potentially looking to reinvest that profit back in and add up some more coins there. And that's my game plan. That's why I'm actively trading, just looking to build up the stash. Digibyte. So Digibyte and BTC. So we have our high, we're cooling off, and you can see how correlated all of these altcoins are to each other, where we have the big all-time high bull move, and we're now in consolidation after that all-time high. So there's our high hit. Our low of the pullback after we hit that high is down here. And again, these numbers are awful because I'm looking at DGB, BTC. Ideally, I want to be looking at everything relative to the US dollar, but some of these altcoins don't have that feature here on TradingView.com, which, by the way, TradingView.com, I have the paid version, but the free version is absolutely worth using. You can get a lot of information, and it's definitely a really good charting software. So TradingView.com, I also use StockCharts.com, but I doubt they have cryptocurrencies at this point. TradingView is more on top of the up-and-coming. So here we have our high, our low of the pullback, and we're now seeing multiple inside bars, inside candlesticks on the daily time frame. So here we are reaching our equilibrium. We've got higher lows 3 days in a row, lower highs 3 days in a row. So I can look at the hourly time frame and know that we're forming that higher low, lower high pattern very clearly. So there's our all-time high. We pulled back. We formed our low of the pullback. We saw the bulls attempt to hit a new all-time high. They couldn't do it. They formed a lower high. We pulled back from that rejection and formed a higher low, and now it looks like we have a double top at that level, and we just formed another higher low. So looking at all these charts, I can confidently say that we're going to see some action in this cryptocurrency space. And by action, I mean a spike in volume and volatility early this week. I'm just watching so many of these names due to the consolidation that's occurring over the weekend here. And we're getting tighter. We're getting tighter and tighter, and a break is imminent. And you can see what I just drew up here on ETH with its double top and higher low pattern on the 5-minute time frame. We're seeing the same thing here on DGB on the hourly time frame. We have a double top, we have higher lows, so just ranges tightening, reaching equilibriums, and looking for that break. Coin Iggy, I'm going to have to check that out. Thanks for posting. REP. Futures contract, that's interesting. So there's REP USD, that's nice. Looks like we don't have a lot of volume here. So not a lot of, I would not be trading this short term because of the lack of volume. I need liquidity if I'm going to be looking to day trade or short term trade. But here we go. On the daily time frame, we hit our high. We pulled back, hit our low of the pullback. And now we just formed a lower high right around the same level. 1859, 1859, double top. Yet another one. So there's our high, low, double top high. Looks like we did just form a higher low here. And the range is tightening. So you can see how these patterns are just so very clear and continue to form here because we have a lot of emotion in this sector with all of the gains that are happening right now. And it does look like just pure technical analysis playing out. A lot of people talk about manipulation in the stock market and all that. And we certainly know there's tons of algorithms that are trading in the stock market. And wondering if that's going to begin to pick up more often here in the cryptocurrency sector. You know Wall Street's looking at these gains and salivating and certainly getting a piece, I'm sure, but that ETF, when it comes, going to open the floodgates. Waves. Looks like I can't get waves here on the chart. Not sure what the symbol is for it. Made. So here I'm learning too. These are a bunch of altcoins that I have never heard of. So Made BTC. A little bit more volatility here. And we're actually in a downtrend. So this is interesting. Not many cryptocurrencies are in a downtrend. So I'm going to look at the weekly time frame. So it looks like we had our all-time high way back here. That was in early 2016. And we have a really tight pattern here. This is a long-term pattern on the weekly. So the bulls are defending this low down here. Bounced off of that support level twice. And in terms of resistance, we are now rejecting up here twice. So it's a wide channel on this weekly time frame. We could stay in this channel for months and months. But it is... And actually, we did get a bull break here of this pattern, because this is a descending triangle pattern where you have our high, low, lower high, higher low just barely, lower high, higher low, higher high. So this higher high, even though we did reject from resistance, this shifts the mindset and gives the chart a more bullish lean. We're going to look for higher lows and higher highs to continue to play out here because we did break this previous lower high that was sticking within this tightening pattern. And then we saw the volume pick up. Highest volume the past couple weeks that we've seen in months, and that was leading to that bull break. So that's an interesting pattern. Longer term here, but bulls regaining momentum from a pattern that literally took over a year to tighten up and play out. I would agree, Sci Flyer. That is an observation that I have been making. But again, that could change. It could absolutely change. As we get more interest, more headlines we get. I believe CNBC mentioned Bitcoin last week, and that's going to start getting things mainstream. Once you see names like CNBC, really we're just waiting for this. Personally, me, I'm waiting for the financial sector to get going here on these cryptocurrencies. And with the kind of dollar volume that we are seeing pour in, I'm sure they are behind the scenes at this point, but once these big names start talking about it, CNBC getting... the herd being, 350 plus million Americans, once they start getting it broadcasted out to those people, and then someone says, I want, I want a cryptocurrency ETF in my 401k just in case as a long-term high-risk play. That's when we're going to see big money start flowing in. Not that we're not seeing big money, but we're going to see continued big money. Another thing that we have happening with ETH is with these name auctions going on, ENS, those are essentially locking up ETH that cannot be traded for a year. So if someone bids, 500 ETH for a name and they win, those 500 ETH cannot be sold for a year. So it's essentially drying up the supply. The market's all about supply and demand, and supply would be drying up if a lot of people are locking up these contracts for a year, and it's essentially putting a lock on those ETH from being sold. So I think I'm going to go eat some food. I appreciate everybody tuning in. I kind of just did this on the fly. Like I said, rather than, make a video like I do every week, maybe I'll start doing some live webinars here and have a more organized approach on the weekends. Again, because we are live trading on the weekend, and certainly stock market is not live. The costs, the shakeup potential that coin, or that, what am I saying here? The blockchain, there we go. So the potential that blockchain has to shake up this financial industry is immense, and it is because of fees and time. After dealing with these cryptocurrencies and trading instantaneously or bouncing around from Coinbase to MetaMask to GDX instantly, it makes the 3-day business period to settle shares and to transfer funds, it makes it seem so archaic. There's no way that is not going to change. And to be able to do something instantaneously compared to over 72 hours, not counting weekends because they aren't business days, is just silly. So that is going to change, and it's going to be a big sector or a big industry shaker in the financial industry. And, right now you have brokers charging $8 per trade when once the blockchain is initialized, it's going to be, pennies. And it's going to be big time, in my opinion. So thanks everybody for tuning in, and I guess if you subscribe to the YouTube, you'll see whenever I do these live, and maybe eventually I'll get them more scheduled so people can tune in, but otherwise, noon videos is when I usually put out the updates for technical analysis, and I appreciate everybody tuning in, and I will see you in the near future.